Okay, so I've had a lot of questions about the epoxy, and a lot of people ask me questions. How do you do the epoxy? How do you get it to work right? How do you apply it? And I've written it up several times in my build thread, but I realize writing it up is not necessarily going to be a huge help. It's kind of a demonstration sort of thing so people can actually see it. First things, whenever you're going to use the epoxy, and at this stage of my build, this is how much I've used, so you shouldn't be using lots of this epoxy. It doesn't take much to get this stuff to set. First thing you want to do is get it to sit upright like this for a while so the air bubbles work their way up to the top. That way you're not squeezing air and getting an imbalanced mix. You want to have the same amount of resin and hardener when you mix this stuff up. What I'm using for my mixing and my applying is this little wooden popsicle stick that came with the epoxy actually. I'm going to be putting the bayonet lug there back on after I just cut it off. So first things first, take the lid off the epoxy. Push the plungers so that you get both tubes come evenly. Once they've both, and you keep paper towels handy and wipe it off and make sure, like right now, there we go, and they're both bleeding out. Okay. Now they're both right there at the surface. You want to have a mixing tray or whatever ready. I'm not doing a lot with just the bayonet lug, so I don't need much of this for this part. I'm going to show you this exactly how I'm going to do it. So I'm going to find a spot here, take a very small amount of the epoxy and the resin, or the hardener and the resin, and squeeze them out so they're the same. So see this blob, that's probably more than I need, honestly. Now you don't have a tremendous amount of time. Whoops, losing my camera here, iPad. You don't have a tremendous amount of time, but you do have a little bit of time. Pull the tube back right away, wipe off the tube. This way your epoxy doesn't get glued shut and it's useless to you. Alright, wipe it off, get it set. Now back to the mixture. Here it is, you can see the resin and the hardener here. So you just mix them up until they turn cloudy like that. That's when you have a good blend. You got to have equal parts of resin and hardener, otherwise you wind up with a very soft set. And it can get fuzzy and bleed all over the place and have a lot of excess glue or epoxy on there. Like I said, I'm only doing a very small piece, so whatever was on there, that's what I'm picking up. Now, I'm going to bring the offensive bayonet lug back into view here. Let me get this camera, iPad set. Okay, so this is the stuff I just mixed. It's right there. I'm going to take the bayonet lug, just one little smear on it right here. Just a little coat, doesn't take much. And then same thing for the part where I'm going to be gluing it to. Just like you're spreading peanut butter and jelly on a sandwich, just make it wet, so it's not a big blob. Set your stick down so it doesn't dry. You can see that there's not really a very visible amount of epoxy on either one of these pieces. Alright, so once it's there, make sure the lug is not upside down yet again, because I would be not happy if I did that a second time. I have a second chance to do this. I'm not going to try to do it twice. Get it in place and hold it. Get a good set. Make sure it's lined up. Apply a little bit of pressure to it. You've got a little bit of time before this really truly starts to set. So I want to get in here and ensure that it's in the right spot and give it some manual pressure for, honestly, I usually give it about a minute or two of consistent manual pressure, but that's that. I'm going to go ahead and keep some pressure on here, and I'll have some pictures of the properly affixed bayonet lug up in the build thread. Thanks for checking it out.